Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Vibing With Sleezy, the podcast. We are at episode 3. I want to tell everybody that listened to episode 1 and 2, I appreciate you checking it out. Today's special guest on episode 3 is none other than Sara Otoum. She, formerly Sara Otoum, some people from Seneca who are listening may know. She's married to Sara Otoum, who's a good friend of mine as well. That's her husband. So, Sara and I have always been good friends since middle school. We go way back since almost 6th grade. One of the main reasons I wanted Sara on the episode is Sara and Riyadh had been big supporters of me doing this podcast. We had been at different events. We had gone to different places, like Harbor House events. We'd run into each other. And they'd always ask me, when are you going to start that podcast? Hey, do you got a podcast going? You got any ideas with it? So not only did I want to have her on because she's a supporter, but we have a lot to talk about. And she's a very interesting person. This episode will have a lot of ghost stories, paranormal. We're going to kind of explore that. That's something Sara and I had discussed before in the past. And I used to be a ghost hunter. So I totally have the experience when it comes to some paranormal stuff. So if you're into that things, we're going to have that here, but we're also going to have a lot of other things. So Sara, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So how you been?
Pretty good. Just had a baby and I'm on maternity leave. And
congratulations.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's motherhood like? Is it fun?
It is. So this is baby number 2. They're 18 months apart, so that's a little crazy.
Yeah.
But the baby's actually giving me a lot of sleep.
That's good.
Love her. It's been going pretty smooth actually.
Awesome. So pretty much Riyadh works all day and then you're at home and
So things changed a lot with the pandemic as it did for like everybody.
Yeah.
And so he's a realtor and he primarily used to work maybe like 90-10 like in the office and then a little bit at home because being a realtor your schedule can be pretty flexible, but since the pandemic he has been home with me a majority of the time because I've been working from home. Actually today marks a year.
Oh, that's
since
awesome.
I've been in the office since I have not been in the office, so he's been home helping with the kids a lot. So that's been helpful, but
that's cool.
Yeah, we were just talking about how it's crazy how like I haven't sat at my desk in a year.
Yeah. It's a wild feeling. I mean, it's totally different working with the pandemic. It's the craziest year ever. Like just how everything happened.
Yeah.
I mean, did you what did you feel like? Were you when you heard about COVID and everything? Being pregnant during the COVID situation, were you ever just terrified one day? Like, did you ever have really bad anxiety about it?
Well, in the beginning of the pandemic, I was not pregnant, and so my sister-in-law and my brother had shared their pregnancy, and so we were super excited for them, and just hearing how a lot of moms giving birth in the beginning of the pandemic couldn't have anyone with them and they're all alone.
Yeah.
I felt nervous for my sister-in-law. I'm like, I cannot imagine being pregnant during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
And then we got pregnant. And that was unexpected.
Shit happens.
Our little quarantine baby, so that was a big surprise. And so I kept telling Riyadh before we found out we were pregnant, I can't imagine being pregnant. It just seems crazy and scary because there's so much unknown, like going to the hospital, you don't know what their policies are.
I mean, think about this.
Or getting sick,
But think about this was baby 1. If this was baby 1, that would have been even crazier.
Yeah, so I'm glad this was baby number 2, but and things have loosened up in the hospitals, but yeah, that was shocking to find out we were pregnant. I'm like, we're in a pandemic, what does this mean?
What do I do? So no, I totally get that. So basically, let's get into something that you and I both are very interested in, and at least I don't know if you still are. I know it back in the day where you like ghost stuff, paranormal stuff. Are you a believer?
So but sometimes I don't know. Like I go
sometimes
back and
skeptical?
forth. Yeah, like my family has a lot of stories, and I'll share some of those today. And I have experienced some odd things, and I'm like, gosh, what was that?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I go back and forth about it, but, I let everyone else just be the judge of my stories and see what they think. But Yeah, what would you say about yourself?
I would say I'm a huge believer. So,
Yeah.
to kind of give a rundown of my background with ghost hunting. So, I was in college. I was an audio production major. I had graduated. So, I'm this interning, trying to be a rapper, trying to do DJ all over town, like doing anything I can in Nashville. And one of my best friends, who was actually on episode 2, Christine, her mom was part of a group led by a gentleman named Jay. Rest in peace. He's passed away. But they had a group called SPI, Southern Paranormal Investigators, SPI. So I heard about it, and I was like, y'all need an audio guy? And they were like, yeah, we'd love to have an audio guy. And I was like, fantastic. So basically, I signed up. And so the first, I guess I could kind of like...
So were you catching like ghost sounds?
Well, when I joined SPI, I was almost like I had already had 2 paranormal experiences beforehand, which made me a believer. Like when I was growing up, I remember all the kids wanted to go to Waverly Hills, and I remember my mom and I, we were big ghost players. She's like, "You're not going," like because I had family that had passed away, and she was afraid like they latch on or something. Well, I'd always watched the shows, dove into all the TV programs, but then my first experience happened basically in New Orleans. So I was 19 years old, and Carlene, this girl I was dating, and this other couple, they were all in their 30s. I was 19 dating a 30-year-old. I was living a wild life. So anyways, they all are telling me, we got to go to New Orleans. Well, I'm sitting there having the anxiety of, I'm 19. I can't go to New Orleans. Like, I want to drink. Like, I need to be 21. They're like, dude, nobody's going to fucking card you at all. And I was like, okay. So we go down there, and we called this guy that went to college with us. He's in the culinary department. So he brings us in to this old restaurant that's actually in Jackson Square. So to kind of give, I can't tell you the restaurant name off the top of my head, but to give you, because it's changed, but to give you the visual, here's Jackson Square in the middle, here's Louisiana State Museum behind it, and so if you're staring at the Louisiana State Museum, it's to the right of it. So he told us there's tons of history in this building, and so we walk in, and the first floor, you go into kind of a tunnel, and there's like a brick tunnel, and I immediately start getting a cold, eerie, sick feeling to my stomach. Something bad happened in this area. And what it turned out was, it was the first place they ever sold slaves in America.
Oh, wow.
And there actually had been also a slave rebellion where masters got killed. All kinds of stuff. So there was so much history, and I'll be honest though, it overwhelmed me. It made just the emotion. You could feel the pain. And, you know, slavery is the worst thing this country's ever done. It's awful, and it's just fucking terrible. And you could feel the pain in that hallway. So we turn around, and I see a table, and it's got a photo frame, and it says, this table is reserved for the captain, and I'm completely butchering the name, but it could have been like Jacques Lacroix, some French sailor. Him and his date, they had to be served breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or they break all the china in the restaurant in New Orleans. So not only do you have this tunnel of just complete pain, and you're like, I kind of want to get out of here. Now you're like creeping past a ghost table that you don't want to disrespect, because you're like, he'll break all the china. So then you go upstairs, and you go up a couple floors, and you get to this main room, and they call it like, I believe it was like the Velvet Room or something, and it's kind of spooky. It's got like coffin, like esophagus, like Egyptian stuff, like all kinds of like historic things, and people, I guess, go up there and drink wine and hang out. So I see this wall that's painted completely gold, and it's got hands coming down like all the way, like pretty much like, it looked like 50 hands coming down, like little kid hands.
That's creepy.
Well, I'm like, that is weird. And so as we're walking through this area, there's also a bar upstairs, like an actual bar you would drink beer at, but it's inside a prison cell. So if you're picturing an actual bar inside an actual jail cell, it'd be like you're drinking inside a bar, and you turn around, you're locked up. Well, I'm like, where the hell are we? So Marcia, who is married to my friend Rich, she screams bloody murder in the middle of nowhere. Just, ah! And I'm talking, I almost shit myself. I was like, what's going on? Well, like a curator, a lady that actually was in the place, she steps out, and she's like, hey, what's going on? Like, why is everybody screaming? And Marcia's like, I saw a little boy. And the
Oh
lady's
my
like, you know
gosh.
what's crazy is, she goes, we actually keep that bar inside that jail cell because of a little boy. We don't want anybody drinking in there because he'll play pranks. He'll break your bottle. He'll knock it off.
Oh
He'll
my gosh.
pull in your pocket. So they were like, she's like, did you see the handprints coming down the wall? And I was like, yeah. She's like, we've painted that 27 times. And by the way, this is 2008, 2009ish. So this is almost 12 years ago. But basically, they said we had painted this over 26 times since the 1800s, and the handprints come back every time.
That is so creepy.
Well, fast forward. So we leave that place, and I am like, I'm on a high because I'm like, this is so fucking cool. Like, all these ghosts and paranormal inside one vicinity. But then that night, we have a guys' night. And we go out, the guys. We meet another dude that we knew in New Orleans. And we go out. And during Jazz Festival in New Orleans, it's 24/7 bands. You can go to any bar. It'd be like if it was in Louisville, you go into Diorio, see a band. You go right across the street, see a band. And it's going on all night, all day. So I'm out, and I get back to Jackson Square that night. It's probably 3 or 4 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling pretty good. And I look up, and out of nowhere, I see a man, a complete bald man, African American man, floating at me, and he was in like a Victorian era like clothes, and he's floating at me towards Jackson Square, and I am completely stuck, impermanent, like looking up at this figure, and then out of nowhere it just vanishes, and I immediately go over to that area. My buddy Rich knew something had happened, and I go over the area and look, and the window where the handprints that came down, that is where I saw the figure emerge from the window. So whatever spiritual figure this was, I don't know if he was tied to the building, to the city, to my thoughts, but it blew my mind. So, I really want. I'm excited to dive into yours, but I guess to kind of I can go into kind of pretty much how my path led to Spy.
Yeah.
So after that, about a month goes by, and I'm kind of still investigating New Orleans. I'm reading about it. I'm fascinated about it, and like I'm pretty much all I can think about is New Orleans when I'm like just chilling, because I'm like, that was so cool. Well, then my roommate at the time looks at me and he goes, hey man, I'm watching this show, and he's like, some dude said God told him in the middle of the night to build a tree house in the middle of Crossville, Tennessee. So we're about 2 hours north of Crossville. I said, what? He's like, yeah, this dude, he's like a preacher. He says God told him to build a tree house and put a church in, all this stuff. He's like, you want to go down there and just explore this tree house, see what it's about? And I was like, fuck it, I ain't got no plans. So we go. So we're going down to the tree house, and we pull up. Well, in Crossville, there's only 2 things in Crossville: fudge and the tree house. And the fudge was fire. Like, the fudge was so good. I stopped at a little gas station, and it had like a little sign. It was like,
is this one of those like drive-through cities, like to get somewhere else?
Yeah. One of those.
I think I've driven through.
It had like a little sign. It was like world famous Crossville fudge, and I was like, oh, I'll take some caramel. I can't say no to fudge. But we go back down and basically get to the treehouse. You have to drive behind like 5 mansion-style homes, and you get to this gate, and the gate's locked. Well, the treehouse just burned down last year, actually. They don't know. I don't know if it was arson or what happened, but we're pulling up and we open the gate. There's no trespassing signs.
Okay.
We're clearly going to trespass, and so then we pull in, we park, and next thing you know, I look up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is fast. This is wonderful.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So it's in a tree, like it's a legit tree house?
Yeah, it's a 6-story tree house inside an actual tree.
Oh, wow.
So you actually have to climb steps to get to the main floor of the tree house. So as I'm going up the steps of the tree house, we get to the floor. There's 2 guys. And I was like, oh shit, who are y'all? And they're like, oh, hey man, y'all can explore. We're heading out. This is pretty cool.
Is this in the middle of the night?
No, it was middle of the day. Thank God.
I'm
Thank God.
okay.
Yeah, so it's probably about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So these 2 dudes roll out. We watch them. They pull their car out. They open the fence. They trespass too. They drive off. And we're like, cool. We got the whole tree to ourselves. So I'm looking over the level of this where I'm at. I'm pretty much on the like 3rd floor of the tree house. And I look over and I see a teepee, an Indian teepee, like a Native American teepee.
In the treehouse?
No, out in the middle of the woods. And I was like, that is cool as shit. And I was like, dude, there's a teepee out here. He's like, bro, there's so much stuff in this tree. Well, I turn around and look, and there's a bedroom with a bed, a dresser, everything. Like,
so
someone living there.
Live there?
I don't know. And so it looked like someone had lived there. Well, the door to it was a screen door, and it was open. And it was like, but it was open as it was going into the bedroom. Well, then there's a door that goes inside the trunk of the tree, and that's like a storage thing, but that's completely dark. And I was like, I'm not going in there.
Okay.
So I'm like, what's going on? So out of nowhere, we go into sort of venturing into like the main floor. There's a picture of Jesus, and there's a Bible glued to a pew, and there's all these desks, and I'm like, this is like a church inside a tree. Well, I get up to the 4th floor. We climb up the steps of the church, and we get up, and we're looking around, and out of nowhere, I just hear, wah, wah, like just slams shut. And I'm like, holy shit, what is that? And I look at him, and I go, all I said was, holy shit, this place is amazing. And I don't know if it's because I cussed or what, but everything just shuts. And I look at him, my buddy is trembling, and I look at him, I said, dude, we got to get out of this tree. So we start walking up. We start walking up to the 5th to 6th floor, and you have to go up the floors to get back down to the main floor. So you're pretty much doing a circle to come down to the 3rd, so you can exit and go down the spiral.
Going.
Yeah. So I'm all the way up at the top, and I'm looking down the pathway, and I said, bro, that screen door that was inside the bedroom, it's blocking the passageway. And I said, that door that was open inside the tree trunk, it's shut now. He's like, no way. I said, yeah, dude. He's like, how do we get out of here? I was like, we gotta go past it. So we start walking past it, and next thing you know, I swear to God, that swinging, that door that was blocking our way, perfect calm day, starts swinging at like 75 miles per hour. And I grab it. I'm trying to hold on to it, and I'm like, oh shit, can't get the damn door. And I throw the door, and me and him go running down. I took 27 pictures that day. 27. The last 2 pictures I took were from my car looking up at those doors. They always say, oh, orbs aren't real, it's dust on your lens, the camera.
Yeah.
Why would 25 pictures be normal and the last 2 were filled with 47 orbs?
Oh, you'll have to show me.
Yes, it is incredible how
you said orbs filled with
like orbs all over the picture. On my digital camera.
I want to see this.
So, to fast forward, and at that point, I end up deciding that I got to get into ghost hunting. I have more TV, I watch more. So when I heard this spy opportunity, that's when I had to take over. Now, when I joined spy, I looked at it more of as a fun opportunity, I guess you would say. Not really something that I wanted to make as a career, but I also was just like, let's give this a shot. I'm actually with some professionals that maybe have had something happen.
Yeah,
now,
that's pretty cool.
And Jay, the dude that led the investigation, Jay pretty much, he was in a wheelchair. And so mobility wise, he'd always explore the first floor, so it gave opportunities like me and to other people to go explore the top floors, the attics of all these places. So Jay always told me, and this is a crazy thing, and I've heard the audio, and I feel like I said, rest in peace to Jay. I feel like if Jay was still alive and this audio that he recorded was pushed before him and I ever formed, this is what just my friend's mom showed me. They swear they picked up recordings of Lewis and Clark.
Oh my gosh.
At a place where they feel like Lewis and Clark were admitting some things they had done, all this stuff. I thought it was crazy at first, but the more I listened, I don't know Lewis and Clark's voice, so I can't tell you if that's Lewis or Clark, but just what he had picked up and where he had picked it up at, it makes you wonder.
What are they saying? So
they're pretty much just talking about he pretty much, and I'll have to look it up. You might have to Google it, listeners. But suppose there's rumors that one killed the other, or one wanted to, or something. And so it was talking about the intentions of what they wanted to do and kind of what they had saw. But the thing about it is, it's just them picking up that audio on a frequency, and for it to identify itself as Lewis and Clark, it might not have been, But that's pretty fascinating that it was two people, so you never know.
Where was this?
He said he found it kind of like in a, pretty much somewhere in Missouri. It was like in a, almost...
So, like, would people, like, contact Spy, like regular people?
Yeah, so regular people would do it. So he was going to all these big investigation things, saying he was picking up stuff. Okay. And Paula, Christine's mom from episode 2, she'd probably be able to explain a little bit more about this Lewis and Clark situation. But basically, just them picking up that audio at a historic site, it made me want to be with them. Like, I was like, I gotta join this group. Like, if they're picking up audio like that. So fast forward, answer your question. A gentleman from Pulaski, Tennessee. Now, I'll tell you a little history about Pulaski. Pulaski, Tennessee was actually the first place the Ku Klux Klan was invented. It's a horrible, horrible origin, horrible history down there. My buddy Trill, Devin, but his rap name's Young Trill, but he's actually a really good musician out of Tennessee. He's from Pulaski, and so is my friend AZ. So I don't have any, like I said, they loved living there. They had no problems, but I just think it had bad history and a lot of dark history of what was, some evils that happened down there. So this guy calls us up that owns a plantation home, and he's like, hey man, I've owned this plantation home for 40 years, and somebody owned it like 65 years before me, and others owned it. And he's like, it was in the middle of a war, and he's like, I'm having a bunch of unexplained stuff happen, and I don't know what to do. And I was like, so I asked Jay, I was like, well, what's he want to do? Jay's like, we're gonna go investigate that whole place. So we meet at a Cracker Barrel. We meet at a Cracker Barrel in the middle between Nashville and Pulaski. And Jay's got a plan. Like, I didn't realize before they had done, investigations, and I don't know if this is how they did everyone, but this one particular, we'd sit down, we kind of like talk about what we were going to do, what we were looking forward to, kind of the history. So we pull up, we're all in our vehicles, and what's hilarious is, even though Paula is big into it, Christine from episode 2, she doesn't believe in shit. She was there. She's skeptical as hell. She's kind of like, she doesn't disrespect, and she respects people that do believe, like me and her mom, but she's kind of like, come on guys, like we're really gonna find something. So it was fun also having a skeptic there too, because you're kind of like, yo, shit's real in this place. And I'll be honest, out of my 31 years of living on Lie, I'll be 32 in October, that home that I visited was the worst place I ever visited on the place of the earth.
Really?
And
so what did you guys find there?
I was possessed for 2 weeks after it. So
wait, what?
Yeah, so I'll get to that. Yeah,
oh
it was traumatic. And I'll kind of explain. So we pull up. I start looking at the brick of the place. You could tell there was bullet holes all in the brick. You could tell that this place had been in a war, in the Civil War, I guess you would say. So we go in the house. There's Civil War artifacts all over the place. You picture an old plantation. Got this old wooden furniture, wooden floors.
This guy's living there.
This guy's living with his family.
Okay.
Now his family's out and about doing whatever. So he was like, "I'll take care of the investigation. I'll show Spy around, all that." So we come on in, and I'm like, "Wow, this is crazy." There's like framed Civil War newspapers, like Union versus the Confederate here, and like he has all these artifacts. Then he's showing me, he's pulling out drawers, and there's like weapons and like not like guns and stuff, but like old knives and stuff. Nothing that he just said he keeps it all there because it's just shit that he's collected, I guess. Well, we get to talking to him. We're like, well, what do you want us to do? And he's like, just find out if there's something here. He's like, I'm feeling something present in this place.
Was he feeling like it was something bad? Like negative?
Yes, he was feeling negative. But he also said he had felt that his whole life, but this is his home. So it was kind of one of these things where he loved and respected the home because, memories, and that's where he lived.
Yeah.
But he also knew, if I'm going to continue living here, I need to know the history. Also, I need to know if I'm living here with something else that's not a real person. And so we set up all the equipment. I'm talking, we do mics, EVP readers, everything except the lasers. Well, I'm still learning. Like, I know audio stuff, but I'm still learning like where to set up everything. I don't know where to set it up all at. So I'm like, hey, where do we guys do this? Where do we do? So I'm just kind of exploring, and it's kind of one of these things where, and other ghost hunters that listen to this, or other people that are into paranormal or ghost stuff, they might be like, that's not how we do it, but you know what? This is how we did it, and we got some fucking results. So I find a kitchen door that, like, in the kitchen, there's a door off the kitchen. And you would think opening it up, be a pantry. No, it's another staircase going to a door at the top. And the staircase loops like this. So for the people, and by the way, to give a quick update, Vibing with Sleazy will be on YouTube. We are working on it, so it should be your Sunday. So I am kind of showing this in the video, how the stairs were looped. But basically, you go up and you kind of curve to the right. And as you're walking up the top of the steps, there's another door. And the door looks exactly the same as the door downstairs. So I'm trying to open the door.
And you're exploring this by yourself.
I'm exploring this by myself. And we haven't even started the investigation yet. Like, this is getting to the point of, this actually was done at night. So this is about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. It's still kind of dusk out, and it's starting to fade. So I put the recorder right at the front of the top step. And I'm like, this is a weird room. It's locked. So I go downstairs. I don't think anything of it. So we go outside, and Jay's like, everybody in the backyard. And I'm like, well, what are we doing? And Jay's like, every ghost hunt, you do a cool down period. And I was like, well, how long does a cool down last? And he's like, a cool down lasts 30 minutes. You set up all the equipment. You show your face, you talk, you march around, you make a shitload of noise, and then you go outside, you cool down, and you let the spirits
kind of
get used to everything, get used to it being ruffled up, and like why is this equipment here? Why are these lasers all over the wall? So I'm out back, I'm hanging out, I'm shooting the shit with people. So I go up to the owner and I said, hey man, what's up with that door off the kitchen? He goes, dude, I've lived here for 40 years, man. He goes, that door has been cemented shut since I was a kid. And I said, what do you mean cemented shut? He goes, well, come here. He's like, follow me. So I look up from the driveway, and there's 6 windows. And I'd say 6 windows about 2 by 2 each. So you're talking 6 2 by 2 inch windows. Tiny windows.
Oh, inch?
Inch. Like, I'm talking tiny. Like a little panel. Like a little panel.
What's the point?
I don't know. And so I look at him, I said, what is those windows there? He goes, dude, that's the only view that you can get inside that room. And folks, it's painted black from the inside.
No.
Yes. Also, you can't knock the windows out because, number one, you got to put the window back in, and you don't even know what's in there. So I said, sir, I put an EVP recorder right in front of that door. I said, I'm going to be honest with you. You're telling me that no one has been there? He goes, it would cost so much to restore the house if we tried to tear it down and unlock it. Plus, it's skeleton key system, and they have no clue how to match it up. And I said, oh my gosh. So I'm at that point, that's all I can think about is that room. So they're all like, let's get going, let's start. So I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Like, I feel like I'm a athlete, like ready for the championship. Like, I'm in the locker room, like I'm getting ready. I'm like, let's go inside, let's get it. We go inside the living room, and this is where weird shit starts happening. I feel it extremely cold in the house. Like, I feel chilly.
Colder than it was when you guys first went in?
Way colder. Like, probably by almost like a 15 probably degree drop.
Oh, geez.
Very, very noticeable.
Yeah.
Very noticeable. And so we're in the middle of the room, and we're all holding hands. It's like 10 or 12 of us, the owner's included. He wanted to be a part of it, which you watch them on shows, you hear about it from other ghost like hunters. And I also, too, I feel like sometimes ghost hunt is the worst word. You're not hunting anything. It's kind of like ghost discovery is what we were doing. But you hear from them, and if all I'm doing different, but they all do it different, but a lot of times the owner is not involved.
So wait, at this point, had he shared what he had experienced in the house, or you guys didn't know anything? You went into it? More
of him saying uneasy stuff. Like, just what you would pretty much hear from your basic... person, I guess, being haunted.
So he hadn't really shared like experiences, so you guys were kind of going in this...
Yeah, because I think he also, even though he knew the house better than us, I think he also knew that whatever was happening, he couldn't explain. And he also knew that no matter if this thing had history, was in war, if there was, you don't know, 150 years ago, this thing for a week could have been a hospital in the living room, and there's 10 people laying there dead. You just don't know. So we're laying in the living room, we're all sitting there, And they pull up the recorder, and out of nowhere, as the recorder, we're asking the questions. Do you know anybody in the room? Boop, 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 boop. Things going on. But at that time, this is also about 2009, and there probably was technology out there that would pick up the audio, but this didn't tell you until you got to like a computer what you heard. So when it's talking, we know it's talking, it's responding, but we don't know what it's saying. So at that time, and I think the way Ghost Adventures, if you ever watched that with Zach and all of them, that show hosted by Zach, he basically has an audio guy off site the whole time. So something happens or gets picked up, that dude's like, I just heard him say Colonel Mustard in the living room. So I was kind of like, well, this thing's talking. Well, then this is where I knew something was fucked up in the house. And I'm telling you, I tell people this, I've told this story so many times, and I kind of don't even include this every time because people are like, bullshit. No, this is facts. The owner did not ever own a tarantula. There's never been a tarantula owned in this house, and Pulaski, Tennessee is not common at all to tarantulas. Right. There is no tarantulas at all. 0% tarantulas in this country, in this city. We go into a dining room. We're talking. Lights are off. I see something as I'm shining my light on my phone. I see something scatter. Like I see something walk. I said, "Holy shit, we got a mouse in here." Well, owner goes, "I don't want to fuck up y'all's investigation," but he's like, "If there's a mouse, I need to see it." He hits the light on. He only hits the light on that dining room. I look underneath a chair, and looking at me is a tarantula.
What?
Your common household pet tarantula. And he's like, "We don't own a tarantula." And I was like, what? So, to be honest, I can't tell you what happened to the tarantula. I'm talking about not saying anything bad or good. I don't remember if it scattered off or what. But that put everybody in a little bit of shock. But then you also have people there that were like skeptical of like, was that playing it there? Was this a prank? Whatever. So, but that's the least of what happened at this house. So, as we do the full investigation, we pick up a bunch of audio, but nothing really happens during the investigation. Like nothing crazy out of the ordinary, nothing to freak you out. So we're wrapping up. It's about 4 a.m, and we're starting to tear down the equipment. We've done it. They did say that on the lasers, so the laser grids, actually if like a figure was walking through the laser grids, it will lock and take away those dots and will show you
what passed.
Yeah, an image. Well, there was somewhat of an image in the lasers of something moving, not a full figure, but you could tell something had approached the lasers. Now, and if I was a ghost and there was lasers on the wall in my old house, like I'm definitely checking out the lasers. Like, what is this shit? So I go back to the kitchen and I'm looking off the kitchen. There's a side door off the kitchen, where I told you previously. I was like, well, I gotta go get that recorder. It's like a $100 recorder or whatever. So I go upstairs.
So knowing what you know, like before walking up the stairs the second time, are you a little freaked out to walk up those stairs?
Yes,
at 4 in the morning?
Oh, I'm terrified. Like I'm talking, I'm perspiring. I'm super sweaty. And I'm alone again. And that's what made me. The weird thing about it was it was almost fate that I was alone in the beginning and alone at the end, because I feel like if I was with somebody and I was setting up all the equipment, I would have been like, oh yeah, that's cool. There's a door there. I noticed it by myself. Nobody was opening that door. I think people assumed it was a pantry. Yeah. But it wasn't a pantry. Like, pantry to hell. So, and next thing you know, I go back up the stairs and I pick up the recorder, and I swear to God, and people can believe, people cannot believe. That's the whole point of this. That's the whole reason I've always wanted to share these stories on a podcast, because I feel like they're interesting as shit. Like, people haven't experienced this. So I feel like I'm getting a wedgie. Like, I'm in like 3rd grade, and I'm getting completely tossed down the stairs.
What? So you
So
fell down the stairs?
I got tossed all the way down the stairs. And I got tossed all the way down the stairs. And I'm talking, I felt like I broke my wrist. I'm screaming, help, help! Like my wrist is broke. I already broke my wrist before, and so I'm thinking it's re-broke.
Ugh.
Well, I pop back up. Everybody's like, what's going on? Are you okay? And I'm like, someone just fucking tossed me down the stairs. And they're like, what? They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, there's something evil in that room up there. And I was like, they don't know what's in there. And I said, I think we're going to get a lot of shit from this recorder. So I give it all back to them. We head back to Nashville. So I sleep in. Nothing as when I went to sleep that night, nothing had happened into the morning. So like I got home really late, like 4 or 5. Felt like I was at the club or something, and then sleep till like 12. So I only got about 6 hours sleep. I knew I had to go to work at 3 at Dick's Sporting Goods. I was working there part-time in college, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go to work. I feel fine. I was like, that was weird. So I'm at work telling everybody about this. Like, yo, we went to this place. They're all like, everybody's in the footwear deck, like, oh, this shit's crazy, bro. And I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. And I get home. Again, nothing out of the ordinary in my house. The house seems fine. Everything's normal. So then I put on some clothes. I go to my buddy Nick Guida's house. Well, Nick Guida basically, it was about 5 or 6 people there. Every Thursday night, we'd watch Community in the office. We had a college night. We drank a bunch of beer, we smoked, we hang out, and we watched Community or the office, and it literally was like the Thursday night thing like the dudes did. So my little crew, I'm going over there for Thursday night, and I'm calling them on the way. And I'm like, hey, I'll be there soon. Pick up a 12-pack or whatever. And as I'm going, I get a call from Jay. And Jay's like, hey, man, we picked up some weird stuff on this recorder, dude. Like, you might want to find a church or something. Like, you might want to figure this out. Because the thing, when it said it knew somebody, it was like, Eric. Ugh. Like, yeah. So it was like it had picked up me. Identified me. But Jay's call wasn't as alarming. Like, it was more of just like, man, that's weird.
But the
like
fact that he told you to find a church, like,
yeah,
from what
like, yeah, it was very freaky. And I had not shared that with many people, except the people that know the story.
Yeah.
That, I'm on the way to Nick's. That's on the back of your mind. You're trying to go over there, have a good time, chill with your boys, but you're like, that's on the back of my mind. Like, what the hell? So none of them believe me, though. All my crew is like laughing. They're like, Sleaze, you're crazy, bro. You're full of shit, dude. Like, all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Believe what you want to believe. I was like, I'm going to go home. So I go home. And I'm going home. It's about 11:30 at night. I have work at 4 the next day. And I have a DJ gig like the day after. So I'm like trying to get my DJ set list all prepared for the weekend for this club, and I'm also trying to get everything set up like for work. Just trying to get your routine going. So I'm going home and I'm like, all right, I'll crash, wake up, start the day. I walk in my house and all my lights are off, and I had a studio apartment in Nashville. So you walk right into the apartment. You go straight back to the to the bedroom. You cut to the right, and there's a toilet, a tub, and one little closet room. And then you have in a separate area your sink, your vanity, I guess you call it, 2 mirrors. One's a medicine cabinet and your drawers and shit. So that's your bathroom setup, and it's connected also to the closet. So I'm peeing in the toilet, and I'm by myself. I'm home alone. I just got home. I'm not gonna shut the door while I'm living by myself. So I'm peeing in the toilet. And out of nowhere, I look out the corner of my left eye, and all my mirrors are painted in like a brown, dusty makeup, like a thick, look like sand, look like powder a girl would wear on their face.
There wasn't anything you had in your house.
Nothing I had to do in my house. It just was one of these cases of, I was like, what the hell? Well, I start peeing all over the wall. I'm peeing on a toilet tub. I ain't done peeing. I don't even give a shit about cleaning up. I turn on the light, and it's literally a smile, like a sad face, not a smile, like a face looking like a smile face with X's in its eyes, and the whole thing is covered in Z's with lines through the Z's, like you would do,
like money signs.
Yeah, like a money sign, but there's Z's. But the sign is slashed. It's not like a money sign straight up. So it's like a diagonal line through the Z, and it's all over. And then on the right thing is a bunch of like powder, like hieroglyphic kind of style looking design. And I'm like, ah! I take off running. I go skid in my Honda Accord, which is outside. And in this apartment, if you're familiar with the Nashville, Tennessee area, it is the Trails apartment complex off Stewart's Ferry Pike. This was building 3. I won't give you the actual unit. But basically, I'm sitting there at the back in the parking lot, and I am like, I don't know who to call. I don't know who to like talk to. It's late. I don't want to sound crazy. I don't want people to think I'm on meth or something, like I saw a ghost. But I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I go back in, and the next morning, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, I gotta call some people. So I call a few friends, and
it was still there.
It was still there, and a few friends came over and checked it out, and it was 2 females and 1 dude. And the 2 females said, "This is makeup. This is very makeup." But they go, "Eric, this isn't, a girl didn't do this, a friend didn't do this." They were like, "This is enough makeup to supply somebody for a year." They're like, "This is not just some like quick
the
cover mirrors
like
with designs and to make it so thick to stay on." The dude is taking pictures, and he's like, "Hey, bro, it ain't showing up on phones either, the dust." Yeah, it wasn't. And it didn't show up on mine either. And so I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm terrified. I look at him, and I was like, "Hey, bro, you care about crashing on the couch tonight? And, like, if it's here in the morning, I'll know if it's, like, messing with me or with people or what." He's like, "Yeah, that's cool, man. Whatever. I ain't afraid of nothing." Like, that's what he said. So he crashed on the couch. I'm sleeping in bed. I wake up the next morning. He's still asleep. I turn on the light, and it's a whole new design.
No.
It's a whole new design. So I go out to the living room, wake him up, and I said, "Hey, bro, you know, we cleaned it off, man. It's back, but it's a different design." And he pops up, and I'm talking. It was like I told him that his mom had died. He puts on, "I gotta get the fuck out of this house, man." He's like, "I'm never coming back to this house again." He's like, "You can come kick it at my place if you ever want to hang out." But he's like, "I'm done." He's like, "This place is evil." And I had my neighbor Kendall come up. She's a really cool chick. She told me it was makeup. She had an awful feeling about it. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, what do you do? So I'm starting to think, maybe this is just crazy. So a couple more days goes by, and I'm starting to turn into Ryan Reynolds from Amityville Horror. Like, my beard's getting ratchet. I'm looking wild. I'm like, ugh, like, I'm angry as shit. And people at work are noticing. My family back in Louisville, when they call me, are noticing. Friends are noticing.
Did you tell your family what happened?
Oh, yeah. I told her. And everybody is either believing or skeptical or like, "Oh, you know, it'll pass. It's a phase." And I'm like, no, this is real shit. So I end up getting the locks changed. It happened again. I end up having 2 churches come out. It happened again.
What kind of designs were you seeing?
A lot of hieroglyphics. One was a rainbow. Tons of Z's. Z's were like its favorite design. Sad faces everywhere, like with X's in its eyes, like symbolizing death almost.
Oh
and
my
like,
gosh.
yeah, it was something fucked up. And then it had taken over me, and I'm so angry, and I'm so mad, and I'm so, you know, I'm calling a couple groups, and, you know, people, my friends, half my friends are believing me, half my friends think I'm nuts. Like, people are like, "Dude," and like, even the people that were there were like, "Are you sure it's like it's," and I'm like, "This is crazy." So I walk in my hallway closet, or my closet next to the bathroom, and I gotta put clothes on, and I still don't feel myself. And I look down the ground, and there's a Bible on the floor.
Do you have a Bible?
I have a Bible at my house now. Like, I believe in God. I was raised like Christian, but I guess you would say I'm more I'm more of like a liberal Christian. I don't believe everything in the Bible. I'm more of like, I just believe.
Was that your Bible?
No. And so it was not. And and like, I believe in God. I believe, I have faith or whatever. But I respect everyone's beliefs. And so I'm more of the person of, you got a belief? That's cool. That's your faith. I never expected that to be there. That Bible now is actually next to my bed still. I took that Bible, completely nuts, delusional, pressed it against the mirror, screaming, "Leave me alone," crying. I feel pain all over my body. Like, I feel angry. I'm like, "Ugh." I want to hurt people. Like, I'm ready to fuck somebody up. And I put that Bible against the mirror. I'm like, leave me alone. And I'm just going crazy in my house. And as I start feeling like the house getting a little bit more peaceful and like calm down. And as I'm sitting there on the bed, I'm just in my boxers and I'm like looking down at the ground and I'm like, and I'm like breathing really heavy. So I end up going to sleep and I wake up the next morning and it was like peace. It was like it had gone. There was no design, nothing. And I'm observing this Bible. I'm staring at this Bible. I'm looking at this Bible over and over, and I'm like, where did this come from? Like, where did this random Bible? Why is there someone in my house? Why the Bible? The locks have been changed. I can't figure this shit out. Like, I cannot figure this out. And I only have like 3 more months left on the lease. And I'm like, I gotta live here. And I'm like, but again, I believe in God. I have faith in God, but I'm not your most super religious person. I'm not like, oh, it was the G. No, I'm not. I'm very just like, oh my.
So then where do you think it came from?
I don't know. I do, and I almost feel like in my beliefs that maybe God did put it there. I don't know, and that's what I do believe. Like I have faith in God that maybe He did put it there, but also it makes you really wonder, because even having 2 other people come in and try to bless the place, it didn't work. And
what did they say when they
said there's something in there, and they tried to like christen it. They couldn't do an actual like exorcism or anything, but because they couldn't identify it, but they knew something was there.
Is that when you felt like something was like inside of you?
Yes, I felt like something. I felt off for 2 weeks. I mean, I was sick all the time. I was evil, and people think this is goofy as shit, me saying this, but my beard was like crazy looking. And like I have a thin beard next to I shaved a couple weeks ago, but my beard grows thick, and I have a really big beard if you know me. And hopefully once this gets uploaded, people can see my beard. At that time, I'm almost like 20, 21 years old. My beard's not that thick yet. I look crazy. I look like Ryan Reynolds. So I'm like, ugh. So as it's gone, I'm like, thank God this is gone. Well, then out of nowhere, I'm thinking nothing will ever happen again. Like I'm done ghost hunting. I gave it a shot. I'm the type of person in life that I give everything a shot. I like to try things once. I'm open-minded, but I also am the type of person. A lot of people like to say, "Oh, I want to do that one day," or "I want to do that." I am determined to do stuff. Like if it comes to my mind, or if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I think that's probably one of my strongest qualities. Is just I'm not afraid to like give shit a shot. If I fail, fuck it. Like at least I gave it a shot. Half you bums are sitting at home pocket pulling. So it's like at the end of the day, but at that point I was like, I'm done. Like I am done ghost hunting. I respect them. I didn't even go in there disrespectful. What if I did go in there disrespectful? Like, would this thing have killed me? Well, what's the case? Well, fast forward, I moved back to Louisville. And a mutual friend of me and Sarah's, Trevor, we become roommates for a few years. We're in our early 20s. I'm back in the city. I'm working for Budweiser. He's working for Spectrum. He's never lived on his own. He was like, hey, bro, you're back. Let's get a place. I'm like, it's cool. We get along. So we moved in. It worked out great. We get a place over at Cypress Point in St. Matthews. If you're from Louisville, it's in the St. Matthews area, very close to Mallard Crossing and the mall.
Right?
Yeah, Brown Park and the mall. And as I'm in my room one night, Trevor has he's going out with some girl or friend to go to the movie. They go to a movie at 10. I was at that time, I had a 4:30 in the morning schedule because E-Town was my route for Budweiser. So I would work only like 4:30 to 1 every day. So I go to bed at like 10. And I get woken up at 11. He's gone. He's at the movies. And I hear, pop, 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 like the cops are at my bedroom door. And so I raise up and I'm like, what the hell? Now, and Trevor will admit this if he hears this podcast, Trevor had a habit of how I would know it's him is he'd knock a couple times and go, hey, what's up, man? Like, that was Trevor's, like, go-to knock on the door. Hey, what's up, dude? I knew it was him. Trevor would not have been banging on my door and not have said anything. Trevor would have said, hey, bro, something's wrong. Hey, dude, come out here. Also, I'm like, he's at the movies.
Yeah.
Why would he be, like... But for some reason, and I'm telling you, I swear I believe in fate. I believe in, like, crazy shit in life. For some reason, that door, I locked it that night. I had locked my bedroom door that night. I don't know why. I never did. I'd always shut it because I want privacy, but I never locked it because I'm like, I live with Trevor. We live in St. Matthews. I didn't feel like somebody's going to come busting down my door like they, you know. So I'm like, that night, though, I wake up, I look under that door, and it's continuously banging. But it's not playing with the doorknob, nothing. It's 1800, like 1700s cowboy boots, like Wild Wild West. Again, I am not making this shit up. I'm talking full-blown gator, like, you know, like gator shoes have the pointed toe? Like pointed toe, but it's cowboy boots.
That's what you see under the door.
See it under the door. And at this door, and there's a guy I know named Chuck Johnston. We actually had to rebuild that door after a drunk night with me and my friends. He helped me build it back. I could see underneath that door a lot of space. So there's so many opportunities for this, I would say person, but it's not a person, to open my door. They could go in there. They could have literally got under and said, "Hey, Eric, what's up?" And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, what do I do in that case? Like, so I grabbed a Louisville Slugger bat out of underneath my bed. I always had one, and it was like a wooden one. And I literally am holding the bat, and I got the bat on my like my shoulder, and I'm just staring. And I have like a little chair off the side of my bed. And I'd sit in that chair and I'm just staring underneath the door and it's just continuously knocking. And I'm texting Trevor, where are you, dude? And I don't hear nothing back. And I'm like telling people, like I'm texting people, nobody's up, it's late, it's work night, whatever. And I'm like, what do I do? And also, I'm going to adjust this really quick just because we're good.
Yeah.
Because you were blocked there. So basically what happens is, I don't get any response. So I'm laying in the chair. I'd already emailed in that I'm calling in the next day. Like, I know that I'm staying up, and I have a feeling. You're
trapped in your room.
I am trapped in my room, and I, like, pop, 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 pop. No doorknob play. Like, 4 hours, this thing is not playing the doorknob.
4 hours of banging?
Banging. And I'm talking, I didn't call the cops because I don't want to think crazy. If they show up, there's nothing there. I don't want to get some stupid fucking fine. Plus, I don't even like dealing with cops. I was like, I don't even want to get involved with that. I don't even want to deal with... And also, too, I'm like, Trevor, the fucking joke's over, bro. If it's you, dude, quit knocking. It is a ghost. And I am 100% sure. So, I fall asleep for a total of 8 minutes. And I wake back up. And I'm like... No knocking. Still saw the shoes. I'm laying there still. And I eventually fall asleep again. I wake up 20 minutes later. Shoes are gone. I'm sitting there with a baseball bat in my hand. And Trevor had finally texted me. And it's probably at this point like 5 something. Hey, dude. I guess he woke up or something. Hey, dude, I just saw this text. You at work? Like, what's good? Like, why are you asking me if I was home? I told you I was going to the movies. I ended up staying over at this place. And I was like, dude, there was someone knocking on the door for like 4 to 6 hours. I said, bro, I called in today. He's like, you're fucking with me. He said, what are you talking about? I said, there was someone. He's like, there's someone in our apartment? I said, no, you don't understand, man. It's like a ghost, like a spirit. He's like, dude, I'm coming home, man. So he comes home, and he knocks on my door, and he's like, hey, what's up? It's Trevor. And I was like, okay, it's Trevor. Like, thank God it's Trevor. So I open it up real quick, and I probably, again, look like Ryan Reynolds from Amityville Horror, and I'm like, where you been, dude? What's going on? He's like, bro, what are you talking about? He can tell something's off. Like, I have a bat in my hand. I'm not at work. I'm completely restless. He's like, dude, I can't. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, maybe this place was buried on Indian burial ground. You know, that whole area.
How long did this happen after the whole Tennessee?
Oh, probably less than a year.
Okay.
And so at that point, as I'm seeing his, like, as I'm like seeing those feet down there, that's what I'm immediately thinking back to the ghost there.
Yeah.
Well, Trevor's like, what's going on? Like, he's like, you really think it was a ghost? Yeah. He's like, man. He's like, you know what, dude? He's like, I'm not gonna judge you. I believe you. Whatever. He walks out to the living room. Guess what the thermostat's on? 51 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
The whole house is ice cold, air blowing. We had moved in like October. It's the damn winter. They only say ghosts come out of the code for. I don't know what happened. I can't explain that. I would not have gone to bed at 51 degree weather. I would have noticed that in my room. I wouldn't have sat there with a bat. So
that is creepy.
So I'll say this, and I've wanted to share these so long, and I'm glad you were on this episode for me to share these. I'm not only a believer after that, but even with me doing this job I do now, renting homes, I've already had incidents with that, not really coming after me, but just things I've noticed. I just feel like, you know, I know that was probably almost long-winded for some people, like some of those stories, like, man, that's crazy, but to give you those details and to, like, dive into that, it needs to be said, because not only does it make the story well, it gives you the story, the actual factual representation of, like, what actually happened. In the beginning of the episode, we discussed, and you and I have discussed before, what are some things that not have, I guess, particularly have happened to you, but say family-wise, like for you?
Well, I'll start first with a few things that happened to me. And I know, like, in the beginning I said I'm a little skeptical, but I think part of that is if I were to admit that, like, it's legit, I don't know if I could sleep at night.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So growing up, my grandparents used to come visit us at our house here in Louisville from Mexico. And we lived in a house, I mean, it wasn't a very old house, but at the time my grandpa was on crutches, and I had the only bedroom on the main floor. And so it just made sense for him to take my room while he stayed with us. And so I would go down to the basement. There wasn't a bedroom in the basement. It was a finished basement. And it was just an open basement with, you know, carpet, like a futon, you know, just wasn't anything crazy. But so I stayed down there. I miss
futons, by the way.
Yeah, so it was a comfortable futon. But I stayed down there for 2 weeks. And it was the kind of basement, it's not a walkout, like, so when the lights turn off, it's pitch black. You can't even see your hand in front of your face, like, dark.
Whoa.
And so, and I never really had an issue with our basement, but, like, you know, basements can be kind of creepy where, like, when you're going up the stairs, you might skip every other step and, like, run up and don't look behind you type of thing. Well, one night I am going to bed, turn the lights off, and this is, like, in the basement, and I hear whistling, and I have a brother who's 2 years younger than me, and there's a vent in the ceiling that goes directly up to his bedroom, so I'm like, okay, that's probably, I guess, coming from the vent. But it sounded like it was really close, because, like, the vent was at the back of the basement, and this futon was toward the front. So I just hear this whistling, and honestly, I didn't know he could whistle, so I'm like, okay, like, didn't know he could do that, and I'm like, also, please stop, because I'm ready to go to sleep. Yeah. So I hear this whistling, and it actually goes on for about an hour. I'm like, all right, that's kind of weird. And it's like kind of whistling like a song. Yeah, and you're younger, so like you're thinking to yourself probably like, why would my brother 2 years younger be just a whistling goober now? Yeah. So that was a little weird. It made me feel a little uneasy, and at the time, like I was too scared to get up or even to like speak.
Mm-hmm.
I just freaked myself out, even though I'm like in my head, this is Kevin whistling. So that's what I kept telling myself.
Yeah.
And I also have, my flip phone next to me. My brother doesn't have a phone at the time. And so, because otherwise I probably would have texted him, but I was just scared.
Yeah. I totally get that.
So just whistling, but then I just chalked it up to like, it's my brother, whatever. So then the next night, I go back to the basement and go to bed, and I hear footsteps on the carpet. I'm like, all right.
Shit.
And my brother and I play pranks on each other, so I'm like, that's totally him. Because I asked him the next day, like, do you whistle? Like, I've never really heard you whistle. You're great at it. And he's like, whoa, what are you talking about? So anyways, I'm trying to go to sleep, and I hear some footsteps. I'm like, okay, Kevin, like, go to bed, leave me alone. And it turns into running.
Oh, gosh.
Around the futon for a couple hours. And I've never been so afraid in my life. I pull, like, the blanket above my head. And, like, basements tend to be kind of cold, but I was so scared. I was shaking and sweating. I'm, like, so scared.
Yeah.
And it's just running, like footsteps.
Yeah.
Like, just going around the futon for a couple hours. And, again, I have my phone next to me, and I'm, like, I'm too scared to open the phone to, like, call my mom upstairs or my dad. Because that means opening the phone, it would light up the basement.
Oh,
and I'm scared to. I was too
illuminate
scared to see.
it.
Yeah. And so the next morning, and then I like somehow fall asleep. I don't know how I did that, but I did. That's like my memory of it. And I think at the time,
I think exhaustion hits you at some point, and you're just like, I gotta cave. Like, I gotta pass out. Even if there is something in here, I gotta go to sleep.
It was just so scary. So then the next morning, I tell my parents, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is what happened. And I will say, when I was younger, I played so many pranks that I think I was the boy who cried wolf to them. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, sure, Sarah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, I don't want to sleep down there anymore. And so I think the rest of the time that my grandparents were with us, I slept in the living room upstairs because I was just too scared. And then,
I don't blame you.
So then, like, another time, and I can't remember if this happened before or after that, but it was, like, around the same time. I had my friend Marla, who you know.
Yeah.
She came over.
Shout out to Marla.
Marla Beach.
Marla Beach, and now it's Marla Moore. The one thing about going to Myers or high school, it's like the people that did get married, it's like it's always good to shout out the previous name, because sometimes you'll be talking to somebody like, yeah, I ran to so and so, and they'll be like, who's that? And you're like, it used to be that. Oh, okay, got it. So yeah, shout out to Marla.
So she came over, and we were working on some sort of project or something, and we went down to the basement, and I told her that just some of the weird things that happened.
Yeah.
And I like to say that she believed me. I don't know, but we were hanging out down there listening to music, and
not to cut you off, but didn't she though? I thought I had a kind of a spooky house too.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought her house was a little spooky. Yeah.
Yeah, her mom's house. So we are in the basement listening to music, and my parents have like an old stereo where it has and there's like a it plays like records on the top and the radio. And so it has like these lights on it to indicate like the volume. So the more lights that are lit up shows the volume. And so we were listening to music, working on whatever, and all of a sudden we notice that the volume's going down. Like we hear it going down, and we look over, and like one by one the lights are like turning off until it completely shuts off and the button pops out. And
oh my gosh.
And Marla's like, your basement is haunted.
I got goosebumps right now. My whole body is covered in goosebumps. Like not to be TMI, my nipples could cut ice right now. Like I have goosebumps. The button popped out?
Yeah, like
holy
it's like
shit.
This type of thing where like when you turn
yeah. I know what you're talking about. I actually just pictured that in my head. That button just.
Yeah.
Oh, at that point, I'm like, hey, dude, let's go to my house. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. So that was terrifying.
Ooh.
And so little things like that happened.
Yeah.
At my house, and so like, I would tell people that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I believe it. In my head, I'm like, I don't know how to explain that, but for me to say, like, that was legit a ghost, I don't think I think I could sleep at night.
I think the thing about it is, it's not that people don't believe or want to believe. I think sometimes people are afraid to believe it.
Well, that's me, and it's like I have to come up with some explanation that would make sense. I'm like, oh, that was totally my brother, running around the futon or whistling. But
was that something that, so before you ever had that stuff in the basement, were you into any like ghost television or like even like Are You Afraid of the Dark, kind of like Goosebumps kind of deal?
Yeah, a little bit. My dad's birthday's on Halloween.
Oh, that's cool.
He is really into that sort of thing, or not really like ghosts necessarily, but we'll get into the
Halloween
family
vibe.
stuff. But yeah, like we go all out for Halloween. But
that's neat.
But those are stories or experiences I told my parents, and they're like, okay. And then even with Marla experiencing that with me, we're like 15, 16-year-olds like, oh my gosh, there's a ghost. And I think my parents were like, these girls. So
yeah.
But as far as things happening in my family, so my dad is from Mexico, and there's a house that's been in my family for a really long time, and I actually have not been to this house. It's like further south in Mexico than where my dad's from, but his uncle lives in this house, or lived there, and it's a hacienda, so basically all the doors open up into a court, like in the middle of the house. And so there have been stories shared, like with my cousins and aunts and uncles, like of little experiences there, and like something is off about that house. And my mom is a little bit skeptical, and she's been to this house once. She's like, yeah, I would say I probably wouldn't want to stay there. Like, it felt a little weird. But so some of these stories like go as far as like my aunt's cooking at the stove and something kind of pushes her toward the burner.
Something's there, yeah. Like
little things like that, and so like it started to really pick up, and it got to the point where my uncle like broke down crying, like, I can't take this anymore, and he moved his family out. But like one night he was sleeping, and it got really cold, and the sheets pulled down. Oh. And he kind of felt that, and he like pulled it back up, and then it happened again. And then he felt like a really cold breeze on his face, and that kind of woke him up, and then the blanket kind of coming down again. And so he said he opened his eyes, and at the end of the bed was a figure of a man with like a top hat at the end of the bed. And obviously that was really scary. And all of a sudden he said, so this is how the story goes, and some of this is like so hard to believe, but like my family members like, no, this happened.
I believe you.
The door swung open to the courtyard, and the bed was completely pulled out with him on it to the courtyard. And so that's one of the last straws that he was like, I have to move my family out. Like, something doesn't want us here.
It's one of these cases where to kind of piggyback off that, I feel like going back to my Pulaski story, it's like when you're in a place and something doesn't want you, not only can you feel it, but when they show you, it's almost one of those cases where even if you're kind of trapped in a situation and you don't want to let it like defeat you, but you kind of do have to move, or you have to readjust life, or do it because it's something that it can overwhelm you and it can overcome. The mental state that I was in for those 2 weeks, and just putting my feet in your uncle's shoes, like, I can see where he would be. The first thing immediately, it's like, I gotta get my family out. This thing's after me. And it's not that. It's not easy to overcome, and it's such a hard thing because half the people believe, half the people don't, and so when you really are trying to get the scoop out, no matter what, even if it did happen 100%, not everyone will ever believe it, and that's what's so crazy about these instances. I mean, to kind of probably the most recent thing that I had seen, nothing that was really going after me, but I've never thought in all my rental homes that I've done. For the listeners, I work for a company in town, and I do rental showings right now. And I've done it for a couple of years. I've rented about 200 homes in the city, and really enjoyable job. But all my places, even the places that have history to them, Louisville, some are spooky, not been that many instances. Like, I had one place where there was a family and I were in there. It was a place called, it was actually 6311 Lure Court, Lure Court. I'll never forget. Had a family in there, and all the doors shut at the same time. And we all immediately took off running. And I will say this, that family, number one, didn't rent the home. But the weirdest thing about it was, the only reason I had that property was we temporarily partnered with another real estate company from out of town to take over their properties. They gave us that one. The next morning, I did not even talk to them or report it. I had gone straight home, was like, I'm so used to this shit, I'm just kind of like, that was fucking weird. I'm like, I'll wake up tomorrow, tell Havenbrook about it. They'll think I'm crazy, but whatever. And that was I work for Billside Properties. We were partnered with Havenbrook Homes. So when we were talking to Havenbrook Homes, they immediately called me and Chris next morning. They go, "Hey, we really don't have an explanation, but Lure Court is gone. We're not even going to rent it. We're not done. We no longer have it. Just want to let you know, don't go back there." And Chris goes, he has no clue about my story. And Chris is like, "What happened? I mean, we had a showing there yesterday. What happened?" We can't really explain. We just want to make sure that just focus on these two others, and we'll see kind of how the relationship goes. Well, at that point, me and Chris kind of were at our wits' end with this company, so we already were ready to break ties. Like, they were awful. Havenbrook Homes, awful company. So is Broadway Management Group in Louisville. But those two are just absolutely dog shit. And the thing about it is, both of those companies were so awful to do business with or to work for that, when you're in this industry, this business, you're like, you want to know why. Like, you want to know why was I taking off this? Why? Because you're like, I take pride in this shit. Like, I didn't just go over there and prep that whole home and nothing happened. And to this day, I have no answer. And so I believe this home, something fucked up happened there. Like, because I never had a good feeling. And there was also a very awful smell. But the craziest thing, the only time I've had something weird with the rental was, I'll never forget this. So Chris is like, my boss is like, "Hey, I need you to go pick up some keys." But he's like, and go check out this house. And then he's like, "Can you show it to these 5 people Saturday? Like, we got to get people in it. It's one of our nicer homes." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool, whatever." I go pick up the keys. I go check out the place. I'm there for like 2 minutes. I'm like, "Oh, it's clean. It's ready to go. I'll schedule these people tomorrow." Because I like to check my place out. I'm not going to bring in a dump and there's poop on the floor. And I'm like, "This won't be here when you move in." So it's like, I literally was just like, "Hey, it's good, dude." He's like, "All right, schedules people." I go over the next day. I get there 15 minutes before. Open the doors. Open the back door. And I'm like, it feels really cold in here. And like, it still was kind of like, this was actually like, so this is March. This is probably October-ish. Like, I'm like, it's kind of cold in here. Like, I thought the heat be on. And Chris is just like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. That house is weird." And I could tell Chris was holding something back from me. Like, something Chris knew he didn't want to tell me. And not that he's that way. He's never been that way. But I could tell he didn't want to say that home's weird. Because he's also kind of a skeptic on that stuff. But I've told him things. I told him about Lure Court. We've opened up about my ghost hunting. He's just like Christine. It's just like, "Oh, I believe if you saw it, I believe you." But I don't personally believe, because I never saw it. So he's like, "Yeah, dude, everything will be fine. Go over there." So I'm at the showing, and I'm sitting there. Nobody's there yet, and I immediately feel like I'm an exorcist, like the Exorcist vomit all over the place. Like, I felt like my head was going to explode, and I'm just like, I'm out in the front yard, like, hurling vomit.
What?
Like, bleh, bleh. I call him. I said, "Dude, I'm sick as shit." I said, "I felt completely fine." I said, "There's something wrong with this house, man." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Dude, I just threw up for 5 minutes straight in the front yard." I said, "Thank God nobody's here." I said, "Dude." He's like, "Are you sick?" I said, "I felt perfectly fine. I ate a good breakfast. Everything's good." I was like, "Dude, what's going on, man? I said, this is starting to go back to my feelings of when I had that ghost possess me. Why am I feeling this way? And I said, don't fucking lie to me. I was straight up. I said, don't fucking bullshit me, man. And he's like, all right, a maintenance man died there. And he's like, he OD'd in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, what? I said, when? He was like, oh, pretty recent, man. He's like, he's like, it's all been cleaned, everything's good. He's like, he overdosed on heroin. He's like, I didn't want to get into. He's like, it's a weird house. He's like, I get it. I said, bro, that is some shit that I need to know, because I said, I have a history of this shit. And so I was very firm with him. Like, we have a very good relationship, but I told him, I said, you gotta tell me that shit.
Yeah.
So literally, a few people come. I show them the play. I do it open house style, though. I'm very thorough with my showings. I'm the type of person where even if it's an open house, I like to walk you through. I like to point things out.
Yeah.
I want to sell you on that property. That's why I rent them so quick, because I'm selling you on that place. I did not want to sell anybody on shit in that place. I want to be gone. I want to be home in bed. I sat there at the front door and just stared at the front door and felt uneasy the whole time.
Did anyone else?
Well, this is where it gets weird. So 2 families go in, they leave. Both families, to me, never showed any appreciation, and I don't care. I don't need a thank you. I don't need a goddamn gift card. But
they're just like in and out.
No, they both were like, we gotta go.
Oh.
And you can tell when somebody's in a rush to go. And it's a Saturday. This is not like we gotta go to work, the kids got school. We gotta go. And I'm like, it's 10 a.m. Okay, I got it. But when both people do it, I'm like, something's weird. Third couple comes in. It's 2 ladies. They walk in, very nice. I told them straight up, and because I like to be honest. I said, this is the home. It's clean and ready. I don't feel great about the energy in here. I said, I don't know if y'all believe in stuff, but I said, I feel a little weird energy. I said, I just want to be real, because I have a conscience. I'm not a piece of shit. I don't want people to move in there and then 2 days go by and their eyebrows are ripped off by some evil spirit or something. You know, like, you never know.
Yeah.
Because I'm a believer, like I said, in that case. So I'm sitting there in the living room talking to them. They're like, oh, we don't really believe in that stuff, whatever. So they go check out the whole place. And the one area I did not want to go when I was there, and I already looked at it that original day, I did not want to go up to the second floor, because the second floor had so skinny narrow staircases. It was like, if you've ever been to Natural Bridge in Kentucky, they have a thing called like Fat Man's Death or Fat Man's Non-Escape or Unescape, and it's a passageway between rocks, and it's this skinny, and you're like trying to get through the thing. And so when you're going up these steps, you can clearly go up, but you feel wedged. I'm like, I don't want to feel sick, be up in those steps, you know. So they come down, they're like, we love it, but they're like, that upstairs is a little weird. They were like, the stairs are kind of tight, and we don't really like that air conditioning machine, but I think we'll take it. You know, we're going to apply. And I was like, well, that's great. And I started laughing. I said, because I don't want to come back here. You know, and they're like giggling. They're like, well, give us the app info, all this stuff. And we all 3 stop. And it sounds like Odell Beckham Jr. is upstairs doing a 40-yard NFL dash. Like, running, like, feet step. And I cannot explain these 2 people. Unless they're just brave, unless they just don't give a shit, they don't believe. They're like, oh, that sounds weird. Sounds like the furnace. I said, that's footsteps. You know that's footsteps. I said, what do you mean the furnace? I said, that's not the furnace. I said, the furnace not on. Oh, well, we want the place. I was like, these people really want this place. So I was like, all right, cool. But again, I'm kind of like, I don't want to argue. Like, I want your money. Like, take it. So I locked the door up, put the key in the lockbox. They're not even approved. So I always do an inspection, pick up the keys in the lockbox after someone's approved. I'm not going to do that if they're not approved, because if they're not, I'm wasting my time. Now I have keys on me for no reason. So I was like, I'm done. I'm done with that place. I'm not going back. Chris calls me. 2 days goes by. I hadn't talked to him a couple days. We don't talk every day. And he's like, hey, dude, what's good? And I was like, no, he's like, man, you're doing a great job, dude. You finally rented that home that you had the stomach ache over. I said, don't tell me stomach ache. I said, you know that was a damn ghost in there. And he was like, He's like, hey, whatever, man. He's like, so listen. He's like, because you're my boy, you don't have to go in there and do the inspection. He's like, I don't have the keys in the lockbox. He's like, can you just go get the keys in the lockbox? He's like, bring it back. We'll be done. I said, okay. He's like, but one thing. He said, the power's off. He's like, we shut the power off for the weekend. He's like, we have an electrician going out there to do some stuff. He will be the one that will mess with the power and everything. So when you go there to pick up the keys, please tell me all the lights are off, because he's like, this guy requested. I don't know what the electrician had to do that had the lights off, whatever. I didn't even get into it. I was like, okay. I show up. I'm going with the keys, get the lockbox, and I look through the living room window. Why is the only light on in the house the bathroom?
No, don't tell me that.
I run to my SUV. I peel out. I go straight to my boss's office. Throw the keys in the side little slot where you do a key drop. And I'm going to go meet Trevor. Trevor was talking to some girl at the time at this hot dog restaurant, like this new one. What is it called? It's on Melwood. Elroy's or
I don't know.
It's like a Chicago-based hot dog thing. At the time, Trevor knew somebody that was working for the grand opening. He's like, dude, it's free food. I'm never gonna say no to free food. So I was like, I'll be there. So I show up. I'm telling them, and they're like, holy shit. And my mom calls me. I tell her. She's a believer in that stuff. So she's like, what? And to this day, I know exactly where that house is at. And I have like 4 properties around it. I don't even like going down that block, because whatever is in that house is fucking like there. And it's not questioned.
Are the same people living
Yeah, they're still there, thank God. And to be honest, I can't quote or tell you if they'll renew their lease in 12 months, but if they do, please, because I don't want to go back. But I told Chris I will. Basically, what happens is, it's me, Chris, and another girl that work there, and I'll take any place, home, apartment. I feel like I can rent anything. I don't care if it's a dump, if it's in a dangerous area, whatever. I got it. But this home, I will never go back, and I refuse to go back.
Well, so that kind of makes me think of my uncle's house, or my great uncle, the one that I was talking about. He moved his family out, and he decided to rent it.
Ooh.
And he couldn't keep renters there for longer than like a month or two, because they're like, something is in that house.
See, that's what I'm saying. Somebody.
Well, and so he had some workers actually see something. He had 2 workers come over to do something in the house. I don't know what they were doing. No one was living in there at the time, or I think this was before, or like while he was moving out. So he still had his own stuff in the house. And there was a giant portrait of his mom or grandma, like someone in our family, on the wall in like one of the hallways. And he told the workers, like, hey, I gotta go run some errands, keep doing whatever. Keep working, I'll be back. He comes back a couple hours later, and they're sitting on the front step in the front of the house. And he was like, are you guys done, or what are you doing? They were like, well, we were working, but then the woman inside told us to stop, but we were confused because you hired us to do this job.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting for you. He's like, wait, what happened? He said, yeah, there was a woman in a black dress who came up to us and said, get out of my house. What are you guys doing? I don't want you here. And so, again, you hired us to do this.
Well, you want to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and so
you probably want to get paid too.
So he's like, let's go in together. Let's go in. What are you talking about? So they all go in, and the house is empty. And then they see that portrait, and they're like, oh, that's who told us to get out. And she had died many years before.
Oh my gosh.
And he was like, okay, you guys can leave. And he didn't have them finish whatever. He was like, you guys can leave. And so, yeah, like just weird stuff like that.
I'm telling you, it is the history of people. People are so, like, I had a long talk with this guy, a buddy of mine, and he believes in this stuff, but he's an atheist, I guess you would say. Like, he doesn't even have a belief in he don't even believe in God at all. But I'm talking about this stuff, and he says this kind of stuff to him is more unexplained, is the way he views it. And everybody views it a different way.
Yeah. But
he was telling me, he's like, dude, people die everywhere. He's like, bro, we might be sitting here where someone passed out 30 years. And I said, I understand that logical thinking, and I get it that everyone's going to die one day and that all that, but at the end of the day, that's not, number one, that's not the way to really view it, and number two, it's kind of like, let's figure out why this is still here, and so I feel like not only do spirits get tied on to like a property, but it's like almost like a routine maybe, like weird situations. Like I feel like there was a situation where I've heard before where literally a spirit would do the same thing every day. Like there's a home on Fern Creek Road in Fern Creek. I think it's Fern Creek Road or Fern Creek Avenue. It's
by Fern Creek High School.
Fern Creek High School. That road on there. That's Ferndale. Ain't that Ferndale?
That's Fern Creek Road, I think.
That's okay. So whatever the road is, if you're leaving the high school and you're getting onto Bardstown, you can take a right or a left or go straight to that pharmacy store. That road back there, that's called like Fern Creek or Kentucky. I can't figure, Louisville Road, something. Whatever that road is back there, somebody that I worked with at Famous Dave's in high school told me that they would throw parties there and or have hangouts and literally every day, every single day, no matter what, if somebody's laying in bed or not, this ghost would walk in with a drink, whatever drink they could find, and just throw it on them. Or if there was an empty bed, say those were the person asleep, they would throw it even if something empty. So it'd be soaked when you get back, and you're like, what the hell? Does somebody pee the bed? And no, it's it didn't matter if there's a Baja Blast, Mountain Dew from Taco Bell. It don't matter if it's a cup. However the spirit did it, it would just throw it on it. And so sometimes you wonder, it's do they get in routines? But you hear these stories not only in America, you hear them over in Europe. You hear them we were talking about Mexico. We talking about different places. You hear them all over, and in Europe, I've talked to a few of my friends, and they've told me stories about different things they've heard. But I feel like everyone has a different opinion on them. I guess you would say.
Well, I think it's scary to admit that it might be real, or that's how it is for me, like I said before. But did you ever go to our house in Old Louisville?
So
I can't remember.
I had not been to your house, but I think I knew where it was at, or maybe I did though.
I can't remember. We have we lived in an old house that was built pre-1900. We don't even know what year.
Is this the one that you own and you rent out to tenants now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we lived. So it actually used to function as an Airbnb. It's a triplex, and then so we moved into the bottom unit for 2 years and rented out the top 2.
Were you told anything was weird before y'all moved in?
No, and
or history? Did you tell any history?
No, we didn't know anything. And the people who lived,
and not to cut you up, could you tell us kind of where it is in Old Louisville? Where
on East Oak Street.
So on East Oak Street, would you say how far from Park? How far from Central Park?
Oh, it's kind of going towards Shelby Park.
Oh, towards Shelby Park.
Yeah,
okay.
So on the edge
more Smoketown kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's on the edge of Old Louisville, so East Oak and Floyd.
Okay, I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah, and so so we were really excited to get this house. The previous owners actually never lived there. They used the entire thing as an Airbnb.
Oh.
So they had renovated part of it and decorated it for Airbnb and all that stuff. So we were really excited to get this house, and I shared a picture of the house with some of my friends. Look, we're actually going to move here. Because we just thought it'd be fun to live kind of close to downtown for a couple of years.
Yeah, it'd be cool, yeah.
And my friend Colleen, she and her husband are big believers in ghosts and that sort of thing. And actually,
shout out to Colleen and her husband.
Yeah, and they've had
will Colleen be tuning into this episode?
She probably will be. She and Ben have had a lot of experiences. Ben owns Dada Boutique in New Albany. Shout out to Dada.
Shout out to Dada. We need sponsors.
But anyway, so I'll never forget it. I showed her a picture, look at this house. It's going to be awesome. You guys will have to come visit us. And she's like, oh, that's nice, but who's that man in the window? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Bro, I got chills right now.
And I'll show you this picture. And it was a picture from the listing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then after she pointed it out, I could not unsee it. And I showed some other people, oh yeah. So it looks like there's a man standing in the window of our unit. But it almost looks like 1800s, very, back in the day, just kind of wearing one of those, I don't know, bow
Yeah. I guess you would say
Like,
your
I don't even know what you
would be
call
like
that.
a not a king's bow, but like an English bow, maybe
Yeah,
like an English
yeah,
traditional.
kind of like that, and you can't unsee it. Like after you see it in the window, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was a little nervous about moving,
Yeah.
moving in, and like we just moved in with our suitcases. We put all of our stuff in storage, and because the previous owners sold the house to us with everything in it, even down to the toilet paper and shampoo.
Oh, so the furnace. So,
Yeah,
okay.
fully
Or
furnished.
Furnished. I mean, yeah,
like
yeah.
as it was for as it was set up for the Airbnb.
Yeah.
And so, so then I started to ask questions like, so wait, why are they? And we got a really good deal for it, and it's a nice house, and decorated really nice. And so then I started asking questions like, did something happen here? Like, why do they all of a sudden want to get rid of this?
Yeah.
And the only thing that we found out is that they just wanted to retire and move out of the country. I don't know, like that's
Cute story, bro. Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's a really nice, like pretty house, and the decor was awesome, and we just thought it was a great deal, and we just couldn't pass it up. So, we move in, and like all the decorations are still there. We have a fireplace in the living room, and there's decorative books on the mantle.
Yeah.
And there's like, I'll show you pictures, and you can maybe share a couple with, or I don't know if you like link on your podcast or on your Instagram. If you
Yeah,
want to share.
I could list. We
Just
could
to kind of
definitely
paint the picture, but
And if anybody's listening if anybody listening does want to see, not to cut you off, but to
Yeah.
see pictures or to get addresses or to get more information, please contact vibingwithsleazy@gmail.com. I'll be able to answer. I'll be able to get you in touch with Sarah if need be. But
Yeah.
definitely reach out because it sounds like Sarah's got some footage. So.
So we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment on the bottom, and so like our bedroom was the very, very back of the unit. And so if you stand in the doorway, like looking toward the front of the house from the bedroom, you can see it. I mean, it's a straight shot to the living room at the very front. So anyways, like if you're laying in bed and you like rolled over, you could see all the way down to the front of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just how the layout was.
Yeah.
And so I remember we were sleeping, and it was one of within the first month of living there, and we heard like a boom, and like something had fallen, and we're like, what is that? And so we get up, and one of the books that had been on the mantle fell off, and it was just kind of weird. It wasn't like laying flat on the ground. It was laying with like the binding facing up, like it had fallen like with the pages facing down.
Which would be very odd.
It's a weird way for a book to fall.
Yes.
I'm like, that is
You would think it'd fall over again.
Yeah. And so it happened like 1 or 2 more times, like that same book. None of the others had fallen, just that one. And I remember telling actually Ben and Colleen, who were like into ghosts and that sort of thing, and they're like, well, what is the book about? Like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know. So I hadn't even paid attention to that. It was a book about witches. I'm like, all right, I don't want this book in my house. I gave it to them or someone else. I told them,
Dude,
like,
I have so many chills right now. It's
Well,
insane.
I'm like, I don't want this book in this house. So like, we got rid of the book, and then
You know about the witch's tree, right? In Old Louisville, right?
no, I don't. I don't. Well,
You don't know about the witch's tree?
No.
Oh, we'll have to talk about the witch's tree. Is a very, very, very spiritual tree, and
I'm
it's
glad
right
you
next to
didn't
Central Park.
I'm glad you didn't tell me about that while we lived there.
I would never have done that. Like when you told me that you were living in Old Louisville, and I was still very close to you, and Riyadh. I remember like me, you, and Riyadh have always been close. We lose touch. We get so busy. I remember being at a Harbor House event with you all for Marla. Shout out to Marla again. But we literally, I would always sponsor Harbor House events with my previous job, Leo. Sarah and Rio would be there to support Marla. We'd always hang out, have a good dinner, get drunk. But the thing about it is, when you all told me about it a little, I'll be honest, first thing came in my head, I wonder how many ghosts they're going to see. But I didn't want to hit you with that because it's like, it's more of a celebratory, like, I wasn't going to be like, hey, congrats on your new place. Oh, by the way, have you seen a ghost? Like, that's just not the way to welcome. So it's very interesting that that actually blows my mind. I'll be honest with you, because now that you're saying witch, and this isn't really close to that area, but I guess so. A lot of people don't know this. Back in the late 1800s, there was a storm that was a tornado that was going to come through Louisville, and it was going to knock down everything. And if you've been to Louisville, Old Louisville's actually the oldest neighborhood in America. I mean, it is historic as shit. And the Witch's Tree, if you're at Central Park, so if you were at like coming from Ormsby down 6th Street, like you're heading towards Hill Street, the Witch's Tree is right there on the right. So it's diagonal from Central Park. It's actually on Park, so it's on Park and 6th, and it's on the corner, and it's in front of a yellow apartment building. Well, back in the 1800s, late 1800s, the city of Louisville, again, like the city council back then, would drive around, or not drive, but do their buggies or whatever, on horses, and they go around and they'd see, like, we need to take this tree down because that could go through the building. Like, try and prepare for this storm. Well, these witches, like a group of witches in Louisville, there's a witch, there's like a witch hood, so I don't know what you would call it, a witch society, a witch,
I like witch hood.
We'll call it witch hood. So they're literally all standing around this tree at night. They worship it, but this is the witch's tree. Well, the witches had caught wind of that city council wanted to remove some trees. Well, city council announced they want to remove that tree. So the head witch, she goes down and she tells city council, do not cut that tree down. Like, number one, it will come back, and number two, I'll make sure it comes back. Like, it will come back. And they're like, oh, whatever, like, we won't tear it down. So she leaves. They're like, fuck her, we're tearing it down. So they go and tear it down. Well, lightning struck the stump during the storm after they removed it. The tree came back. And I'll show you a picture. It is the most hideous tree I have ever seen.
It's there right now.
It's there now. And it's literally, it does not look like any tree in the city, in the state of Kentucky. It has all these crazy barks and designs. It looks like almost like a face. There's beads hanging from it. People give it gifts. People like to touch it. People like to.
This is in Central Park.
This is in Central Park, Old Louisville, kind of the 6th and Park there. And so you're not in the actual Central Park. Like if you were standing, so here's Central Park is a giant square. Yeah. If you're on this corner of Central Park, it's right diagonal from you there. People put beads. I've seen St. Xavier koozies. I've seen voodoo dolls. I've seen everything. And if you live in that building, which my buddy A.B. Bailey had lived in that building at one time. A.B. Bailey. Anthony Bailey. He goes by A.B. He went to Seneca. He lived in the house behind it, and he said at some time, and he said during Halloween, you see all kinds of stuff down there. So that's people wild. Still believe it. Now, I'll tell you this. I have taken so many people to the tree. I've visited the tree myself, took pictures of it. I have not, and I refuse to touch it. I will not touch it. I will not give it a gift. Because not that I don't respect it, but it's just like I don't want to get I don't want to touch it after what I've experienced. If I hadn't had any experiences, I'd probably be like, oh, that's cool, I'm touching it. So it's something that it's part of Louisville history. But what's crazy is that when I was working for Leo, my main goal, like one of my main goals in the city was I'm anywhere I live. Like when I lived in Nashville, I want to see everything. Like. Even if it's got a story, even if it's a myth, like I want to see that. And so I used to drive around to all the little historic markers, and I think I've seen them all now in the city. And so that's how I found out that a lot of people don't realize the Happy Birthday song, "Happy Birthday," was invented and written in Louisville, Kentucky. Oh, was it? Yeah, there's actually a Happy Birthday house that you can go to that you can't go in; it's private, but they have like camps there and some things, and it's over by DeSales High School. And it's Iroquois Park area, and it's literally these two ladies. That's where they wrote the Happy Birthday song. So the Happy Birthday song is made out of Louisville, and there's actually a woman who's running a nonprofit who's actually trying to create a park dedicated to it called Happy Birthday Park. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think she has the funds, but she might take it over with the property. But it's pretty cool. But to get back into that is that going around those historical markers, there's not a particular one for the witch's tree. There's not one that says witches lived here, witches are here. It's just you kind of got to find it.
I didn't realize Louisville had like a witch, I guess like witch hood. We'll call it that.
Yeah, witch hood. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Or like a history of that. I mean, I guess I just had never thought of it, but that is kind of creepy knowing or hearing about that and then knowing that my witch book.
That is weird because, to be honest with you, from where you're located, you're saying to where this tree is located at, I mean, a mile and a half. You know, maybe
probably
two,
not even,
maybe not even that. I'd maybe shorter than that.
Yeah,
because you're talking about where. Oh, yeah, I'd say maybe a mile.
Central Park is about like a mile. Yeah, a mile away.
So it's you know, a lot of people don't realize this in Louisville. You know, Louisville is extremely haunted. I mean, it's one of the most haunted cities. Like, Charleston, South Carolina is very haunted, but yes, Waverly Hills, which is considered one of the most haunted places in the world, not just America, the world. But tuberculosis was so bad back then that all you really hear about when you look at haunted stuff or Louisville or history is Waverly Hills.
Yeah. People
don't realize, though, and this will probably be the last house that I'll talk about that I know paranormal stuff about in the city. Like PT Strip Club, which I'm really good friends with the owner down there. They have a guy that walks in the back when it's non-hours, the Marlboro Man, wearing like a Marlboro hat. There's a movie that Don Johnson was in called The Marlboro Man. This guy paces back and forth by the beer garden. If you go back there, it vanishes, but there's literally a Marlboro Man. Now I've seen a glimpse of him. I've had over 100 people say they've seen a glimpse of him. So I do believe businesses are haunted. I believe there's just tons. Central Park's extremely haunted. They say people walk through that haven't been alive in 100 years. There's a guy that supposedly walks around with the top hat on, and you try to say hi to him, he just vanishes. So, not only is there all these homes, like you have the historic homes off St. James, that whole area is super haunted, like where they had the Southern Exposition and all that stuff, but the one home that's crazy is First 48 had a murder there, and it was off 4th Street. So if you're in like University of Louisville campus and you're coming down 4th towards the Witches Tree area or towards Hill, it's on your right, and it's actually before Lee Street. So if you're going down 4th, before you hit Tavern and before you hit Lee Street, it's on the right, and it has numbers written on the windows. Now, back in the early 2000s, late 2000s, First 48 was in Louisville. Mayor Fisher got A&E to get out of the city because he thought it was a bad image for the city. A lot of people don't know that. One of his big things was trying to get them to, like, he wants everything image, public, and he fucks up all the time. But the thing about it is, at that time, A&E had a homicide that happened. Well, it was 2 gay guys were having a drug threesome, and they killed the lover, the guy that they invited into the bedroom. Well, they like slit his throat, killed him. Oh, it was horrible. They were all on drugs. Like, they were on like pills and meth, drinking, all that stuff. So they put him in a Rubbermaid tote and buried him in the basement cellar area. And they did a shitty job, and he was barely buried. And so there was like smell, and like people saw that thing. So they call detectives out, and they find the body, and they end up arresting those 2 guys. Now, one of them is serving like life. I think the other is out due to he might have been forced to kill the person by his boyfriend at the time. But yeah, that happened in the house, and you're thinking, that's fucked up. I don't want to go in that house just because of that one incident. No, this house is just evil. Back in the early 1900s, it was a tuberculosis hospital. Not everybody could get in Waverly. It's just like now. Not everybody can get a COVID vaccine. Not everybody can get... You literally are like trying to find a place to find a doctor's file. So this doctor's doing experiment, in tuberculosis back then. I'm not an expert. I don't even really know the details of TB, but it's not something that is just like curable or you knew back then. That's why people were dying of it. You had to really know. You had to experiment or know what the fuck you were doing. Well, this doctor is literally experiment, doing things. People died, whatever. So you have that history. Then it turns into another place. Then it turns another, and just more death and more murders happen in this place. Well, after this murder stuff happened at First 48, my friend Jayla, a girl I worked with at Budweiser, her and her roommate, before she got with her boyfriend, they were trying to find a place. Well, they got scammed on Craigslist at this place. Somebody was pretending like renting out apartments. They paid a deposit. The person didn't even own the place. So this place is just evil in general. Well, I knew about all that. And clearly I talk about ghost stuff all the time, and I talk to people about this, and I'm just fascinated in all kinds of history and everything. But I don't really talk about this home in Louisville. When people say, show me something spooky, show me something cool, yeah, I'm going to Waverly, I'm going to places I've been, I'm telling them what I've experienced. But I'm listening to my favorite murder podcast on Spotify. These two chicks run, and they talk about all these stories, and people will write in stories. So they're reading their weekly write-ins, and I don't know why. I fucking, like, they called it, like, Louisville Murder House or something. And I was like, I gotta listen to this episode. So I'm listening, and literally somebody writes in and goes, there's this house in Old Louisville's on First 48. So they give the whole recap that I just did. And so they tell everything that happened, and you think, okay, that's enough. Well, the person goes, the reason I know it's haunted was, and I'm not telling people to go do acid and go do it, but I'm saying these people are on acid, and they were walking through Old Louisville and just tripping, having a good time. It's a Friday night. I'm not saying you need to go to this house and trip, because I don't know what'll happen. But these people went to this house and tripped, and were just walking by. Well, their buddy disappears. And they already had circled the block. And they come back around a fourth looking for him, and he's stuck, permanently looking at the house. He's just looking at it, like, with his mouth open. So the girl pulls on his shirt and goes, all right, we'll make up his name, Bobby. Bobby, what are you doing? He's like, there's so much black smoke coming out of this house. He said that there was black smoke coming out the windows, and there was this black aura around the house, and there was all these, like, things coming out and stuff. And they pull him off and leave. Well, that's when they went and did the research. They didn't even know that anything had happened there. He didn't know anything happened there. They walked past it the first time. So he gets, number one, he gets locked in and glued in. It don't matter if he's on acid or he's completely sober. Why would he see all that? I don't care. He knew to look at that house. Something is evil there. So it's wild to think about Old Louisville. It's wild to think about, because you drive through Old Louisville now. And I'm not saying there's tons of crime still. You know, some old listeners, maybe people over their age of 40 will talk about, you know, there's also the St. X murders the Trinity murders, where the two Trinity boys, you know, Old Louisville is very safe, I feel like, but it's not safe. The two boys from Trinity got murdered in Moby Dick. They got picked up by Moby Dick because they were asking for directions to Manual Stadium, and they got taken to a home and sodomized and murdered and got everything cut off. But yeah, awful. So Louisville has a lot of awful murders in history like that. People just don't know it. People don't want to look into it. People do. I just don't think people know where to look. I'm a sponge. I love everything. Sports, music, all that stuff. I absorb it all. But with this episode, us talking a lot about that stuff, when I hear this shit, not only do I hit the ground running, it's just fascinating. And it's fascinating that it's in your town. You know, not that I'm saying I want to be there. Not that I'm saying I want to live there or participate. Like, knock on wood, you know, pray to God. It's like, this place is very safe that I'm living in now. But I'm saying, it's just one of these cases where you go down to Louisville and you're like, oh, it's such a beautiful home. You don't know what happened. You don't know. There's also a cabbage boy. A lot of people don't realize that. There's a boy, a little boy. He died. He got killed. But he would deliver cabbage all over Louisville. He's a little cabbage boy. And I don't know if it's over at St. James Court back in like the 1800s when they would deliver produce to your house, and he'd sell his cabbage, and he was like had dirt on his cheeks. That's how I pictured him, just this little cabbage boy, and he's just trying to sell his precious cabbage. And he'd walk down those alleyways on 4th Street before Park. You know, there's a lot of little alleyways where during St. James Fest you can walk through. Right. And my buddy lived above one of the alleys, so I could look down on the alley. I never personally saw Cabbage Boy, but his legend and his spirit is down there. And you can supposedly see either him, you can either see his cabbage bucket, or you can either find random ass pieces of cabbage, and cabbage is not grown in that area. And there's nobody that has a cabbage farm.
Do you feel like as you've gotten older, do you become more afraid as you hear things like this? Because
I felt more scared and afraid younger. And now I feel more of, I've experienced it. I've gotten past. I mean,
I think I'm the other way.
But the only reason why I'm that way is because I beat being possessed. But to go back to answering your question, I would say the only reason why is because I beat what had happened that was happening to me. But I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah, because I'm the total other way. Because like when you're younger, I feel like you're not as afraid. Like kids are resilient.
Yeah.
And now, like especially as a parent, like I just feel like, and now I'm just thinking because I have a newborn, I'm not sleeping through the night with her yet, and so like I just imagine tonight I'm gonna be getting up. Like to feed her, because I usually don't turn lights on. I'm gonna be like flipping all the lights on tonight.
You're like every light's gotta be on. No, I'd be the same way, but it's just not only do I think, number one, that I think this episode is probably the best one I've done. There's been, we just had that little audio glitch, and I think a couple times the camera been weird, but other than that, this episode's been flowing, and I love talking about this stuff because I think we could go for hours about this. It's just because not only our experiences but others. But I love this stuff. I love talking about this. It's been fun. It's been really fun.
You did kind of an off-site episode where you took your equipment and almost did like a... Oh, man.
Did it maybe I did an overnight.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's something that definitely I would love to do. Because
cool.
I've thought about doing, I'm the type of person where I think months ahead. I think way down the line. I would love to have some Halloween episodes. Like, I want, to be honest with you, I have so much time to prepare that for Halloween, October, I would love to do a Halloween week of just content, stories, everything. And to be honest with you, what I would love is that not only we could redo another episode, do a second episode, but I would love to stream this episode Halloween. And so I will basically I'm going to have classic episodes and my new stuff. Mm-hmm. This will be like a throwback. This will be like a legendary Halloween. This one I'll always share during Halloween because it's just been great content. But to finish up, this episode has gone super long. Like I said, the YouTube will be coming this Sunday. I've been working on 1 and 2. I've already had them edited and done, just trying to get them up. But I've reached officially 100 downloads and 100 likes on Facebook and streaming. I'm on 14 different places. So Spotify and Apple Podcasts will be the main place you can find Vibing with Sleezy, the podcast. This is episode 3. I will be working on 4 next week, and I will just keep pumping out content to you. I got people booked all the way through April. I have people suggesting to me. But I just want to tell you, Sarah, thank you again for coming to this episode. I've had a blast.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
I've wanted you on this since this was an idea 4 years ago, and so I was like, as soon as I create this shit and actually determined to do this, I'm gonna have you on. So I just want to say thank you again. It's been a blast. I want to thank everybody that has supported. And Sarah, how about you here before I sign off? You kind of give some shout out how people can reach out to you, maybe your email in case they have a ghost question or about Old Louisville.
Sure. Honestly, probably the best way to reach out to me would be on Instagram.
Okay.
I get so many emails.
Shout out your IG. Follow her too.
It's at Sara without an H, so SaraOtoum as in Mary 52. So
okay.
Sara Otoum 52.
And so definitely follow Sarah, reach out to her, give her pics a like, show her some love. She's been an amazing guest. Again, I'm very proud of this episode. This is something I've probably wanted to discuss more than a lot of topics on here because it's something that's such a passion of mine. But if you have a story, if you have experienced anything, tell me. I want to share it. I'll reach out. I maybe have you on as a guest. Like we were just discussing, we'll be doing something for Halloween. But again, thank you so much, everybody. This is episode 3, and we are out. Peace.
Bye.